What a week for Te Pāti Māori, a highly public split with a powerful ally after accusations of a toxic leadership, over-the-top egos, a dictatorship. The dramas are playing out just when the party should be enjoying its moment in the international spotlight. Its youngest MP is hailed as a world influencer.
Te Pāti Māori MP Hana Rāwhiti Maipi Clark has been recognised by Time magazine as one of the world's most influential rising stars. Time says she, quote, shook the world when she performed a haka during a vote on the Treaty Principles Bill last year. It says she follows in the footsteps of ancestors who sustained Māori language, traditions and culture.
And its newest MP makes her maiden speech this afternoon. So what's really going on?
If they're not here to try and get some good change, then what's the point in being in Parliament? That's why you come to Parliament, right? You come to Parliament to change things, to make the world a better place.
I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly. Today on The Detail, the turmoil in Te Pāti Māori, the key players and the young activist behind the accusations of a dictatorship. RNZ's Lillian Hanley and Stuff's explainer editor Lloyd Burr have been following the dramas.
Well, it's not even just the last week, it's kind of been the last month and a half where it's really fallen apart. Ever since the Tāmaki Makaurau by-election and the lead up to that, actually, the campaign, which was pretty appalling, poorly managed. They didn't talk to each other, then they blacklisted journos. So it kind of started falling apart there. Then the Taku Te Wheres's posts in the lead up to the election.
Te Pāti Māori MP Taku Te Wheres says he has nothing to apologise for. That's despite his own party publicly apologising on his behalf after he was accused of making racist posts.
But Wheres doubled down.
I don't give a crap who you care about or what you care about. In the Māori seats, it's about the Māori people, Māori only.
Then tripled down when 3 News tracked him down at the airport. Are you defying your co-leaders by leaving that video online?
Well, they haven't said anything to me.
Really?
And then they removed the whip from Maria Mino.
Te Pāti Māori has been undergoing major eruptions. This week they effectively demoted Maria Mino Kapakingi, the respected Tai Tokoro MP. She was the party's whip. That is an official job here at Parliament and it comes with perks.
It just feels like this party is falling apart, and I'm surprised that it hasn't yet. I'm surprised it hasn't done a kind of a hone harawira and a group of them have gone off to form their own party. I mean, I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think that's probably still something that could happen, that the 4 MPs, the 2 co-leaders will stay as Te Pāti Māori and the other 4 MPs will form their own party. I think that's a possibility. But yeah, it's just been a bit of a disastrous time for Te Pāti Māori.
We've heard Eru Kapakingi talk about a dictatorship, a toxic environment.
Te Pāti Māori is in damage control after a public falling out with a key ally, Toitū Te Tiriti, accusing its leadership of being dictatorial and ego-driven.
A bit of a bombshell statement from someone who probably was perceived by the wider public to be an ally of the party.
This is Lillian Hanley.
So you have Toitū Te Tiriti, which has long been linked to Te Pāti Māori, and of course there are overlapping connections of people that are part of Toitū Te Tiriti and Te Pāti Māori. So there is that link, and the party itself, also Rawiri Waititi spoke to this last week. Toitū Te Tiriti was born out of Te Pāti Māori, he says, and then it grew. So again, that connection is there, that connection has been strong in that massive hikoi that we saw come to Parliament. Te Pāti Māori was really present and really linked to the movement. Now, last week what we saw was one of their key spokespeople, Eru Kapakingi. He came out and made allegations about the way the party was run, saying it was problematic and effectively a dictatorship model.
I realised that I was sitting in and speaking into what was effectively a dictatorship model, and it wasn't working, so I stepped away.
He pointed to structural issues within the party. He criticised them also for not holding the annual general meeting and national council hui, despite constitutional requirements, and he criticised what he called an ego-driven narrative that only Te Pāti Māori could hold the Māori seats. Now, at the same time, he came out saying that the movement would not be linked to any political party.
Toitū Te Tiriti is not a lobby group for any political party. The relationship between Toitū Te Tiriti, Te Pāti Māori, Greens, Labour, any political party is up to the political parties, right? If they align with Te Tiriti o Waitangi, if they openly publish policies that honour and make Te Tiriti o Waitangi enduring and create an Aotearoa where everyone can thrive, then there is a workable, viable relationship there.
Because those comments all came together, it seemed as though the link was, or the reason for distancing themselves from the party was some of these allegations that Eru was making. But he has since come out and sort of clarified that there's a bit of a separation between those issues, and Toitū Te Tiriti has put out a statement themselves as well, saying that that was more kind of individual commentary. So there's kind of two things going on here, but potentially you can understand why it might seem as though it's linked, because you have someone who's so close to the Toitū Te Tiriti movement, and he's also a son of one of the Te Pāti Māori MPs. He himself has held roles within the party, formal roles. So someone with quite a bit of standing in both those groups, you know, making some pretty serious allegations.
But, yeah, I mean, things are murky, aren't they? Because, as you've mentioned there, the mother of Eru Kapakingi is a Te Pāti Māori MP, and she was only recently demoted as whip after, well, what's emerged as allegations of a budget overspend.
So a couple of things there. Maria Mino Kapakingi was demoted, and also now it's just been confirmed, as we've heard from Maria Mino Kapakingi herself speaking to One News, I'll say.
Did you overspend on your budget this year?
There was an adjustment that I had to make, and I did that with the full, in line with budget rules, spoke with, and with the Speaker's directions and with the Speaker.
She refused to say why the overspend occurred.
You know, there's privacy issues here, and I'd rather just keep it just there.
The party, I also put questions to John Tamahere about this issue, whether Maria Mino Kapakingi had overspent her electorate budget. John Tamahere told me,
look, the truth will come out in the fullness of time.
Is that why she was demoted?
The truth will come out in the fullness of time.
So yes, it is murky, as you say, there is a link here, and I just want to speak to some of what, in terms of Eru Kapakingi's allegations at the time last week, just to kind of put a response to that from Te Pāti Māori. They came out and supported the idea that Toitū Te Tiriti should be independent from any political party. That was always their vision, they said, that the kaupapa be carried and grown by the people themselves, not by any political party or individual. And the party pushed back on the leadership criticism. They didn't budge on that. They said that all appointments and decisions had been made through proper constitutional and tikanga-based processes, and no formal complaints had been lodged. I, however, have spoken to someone who believes that she has gone through a somewhat formal complaint process to raise issues around the leadership. So again, very murky, and the party too, I think there's a sense in the party that this is a personal issue, right? That Eru Kapakingi is speaking to what happened to his mother and raising issues because of that. He rejects that and pushes back on that. He says that he feels the need to raise these issues because he wants the party to address this stuff, especially before next year's election.
We'll get back to the entwined leadership of Te Pāti Māori, but who is Eru Kapakingi and what is Toitū Te Tiriti? Alice Stewart is RNZ's Te Ao Māori journalist.
They were born after the general election in 2023 in December. And so what happened there is we saw this government get into power and they sort of mobilised. I mean, they came out of nowhere. So on social media, we saw sort of a faceless campaign. So it was all over my socials, all over Te Ao Māori. It was particularly on Instagram and Facebook. And they made an account, started posting under Toitū Te Tiriti, and no one knew really who they were. And they started with some mobilisations around the country. And then I suppose we learnt a bit more about them in the first waitangi of this new government. government in 2024, where they came forward protesting with these sort of rat-gnawed placards that are in the shape of the document of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and they came forward doing kind of, a haka in protest, really, in the middle of the government pōheri at Waitangi, which is a really important day every year.
At the centre of the protests is the ACT Party's Treaty Principles Bill, which aims to legally define the existing Treaty of Waitangi principles.
So a movement that started amongst a group, I think, of friends who were brought together to sort of act on behalf of a lot of people in Te Ao Māori.
Who is Eru Kapakingi?
Eru Kapakingi is an uri no Te Tai Tokiro, so he's from the far north. He's from Ngāpuhi, Te Aupōuri, and he sort of describes himself as a mana Māori activator. So he's a law academic, so he has lots of knowledge in Te Tiriti o Waitangi. I mean, ultimately, he is the person who mobilised all these thousands of people to Parliament for the hikoe mō Te Tiriti. The Kapakingi name is well known in Te Tai Tokiro. So he's also the son of Te Pāti Māori MP Maria Mino Kapakingi, and himself was 9th on the party's list in the 2023 general election. When I say he's well known in the far north, also his brother, he's a triplet, little known fact, and his brother is the chair of Te Aupōuri's Runanga, Tipini Kapakingi. Also, the thing about Eru is he's also a father, so he's proud about that as well. So, I know that he likes to call himself an activator rather than an activist.
Is this his full-time work, leading this group as a co-leader?
No, I mean, he works at the University of Auckland, and he's a professor and a lecturer there. I mean, he's known for being a very busy man, is Eru Kapakingi. He's hard to get on the phone purely because he's busy. He's also at lots of kaupapa Māori across the country. He's a second language learner, but he's fluent in Te Reo Māori. I think he's an interesting man, and these are my words, not his. He kind of grew up in this space, and because his mum is an MP as well and is a leader in Te Ao Māori, there's a lot at stake for him.
Movements such as Toitū Te Tiriti outside of Parliament, on the ground, grassroots, community-led, people-driven, these movements have to be a constant and have to survive through changes in political tides, through changes in political guards, and therefore that's why it's important to have that distance.
Because there was a bit of a blur there. You know, when we saw the hikoe mō Te Tiriti, we saw Te Pāti Māori's co-leaders out and about on the hikoe. You know, I was there on the Harbour Bridge when they walked over the Harbour Bridge, and I was covering it for the news, and at the front was Rawiri Waititi, the co-leader of Te Pāti Māori. He was right at the front. He was leading the hikoe across the bridge. And so it was really hard to say that they weren't one and the same. But I think it is more of a decision to say, you know, look, we're activists, we're going to activate for our people, and you are the politicians, so go and do that.
What happens when it comes to election time? Are the people who belong to this movement going to vote for Te Pāti Māori, or what are the other options?
Eru has said it doesn't mean he won't vote for Te Pāti Māori. It doesn't mean that he won't be supporting that party. So they may well do so. More than anything, I think it may be a symbolic gesture of we are our own people and we can do what we like and we can fight for our cause. We will take the activism and you deal with the politics in the Houses of Parliament. I think more than anything, that's what it's about, right? They may still support Te Pāti Māori. They may still vote for Te Pāti Māori. That is likely. Who knows? But I think it's the separation of let us do our mahi, which is on the streets, and we'll let you do your mahi in the Houses of Parliament.
There's another player in this who has had a foot in both camps, Kiri Tamahere Waititi. She's the daughter of Te Pāti Māori President John Tamahere and wife of the party's co-leader Rawiri Waititi. She's also been a leader of the Toitū Te Tiriti movement, though she's moved away from that, and she has a management role in the party. So who's actually in charge, and is it run any differently to other political parties? Here's Lloyd Burr again.
Yes, I mean, politics, party politics in particular, it's all about compromise and teamwork and discipline. And I don't think Te Pāti Māori's got any of those things. It doesn't compromise on anything. It's always playing the victim. It doesn't have any discipline within its caucus. So each of the MPs thinks that, no, we're our own person, our own party, and they can make decisions regardless of what the party's policy is or whatever the co-leaders think. And there's no teamwork. They're all just kind of paddling their own waka, not all in the same waka. And so I think because they don't have those three things, that's why it's falling apart.
Also the leadership. John Tamahere as the president, and then we've got two co-leaders. So how does that work? I mean, who is the ultimate leader here? Who is the decision maker? Who is, I guess, rallying the troops? Or who's supposed to be doing that?
It's quite an interesting setup that they've got, because there's John Tamahere, who's the party president, a former Labour MP, former Labour minister, and he stood for Te Pāti Māori as well in previous elections. And his daughter is married to Rawiri Waititi, who's the co-leader, and so there's always going to be this link between the president, his daughter, and his daughter's husband, who's the co-leader of the party. And I think that setup maybe has caused a bit of the tensions that you see at the moment that have been festering away in the background. I feel like as a party president, he's way too involved in the party. I mean, you don't see the other presidents of the other parties having such a role like his, where they're involved in so much of the minutiae of the party's functions.
What does this mean for the election next year and for Te Pāti Māori? Because Toitū Te Tiriti is a powerful movement with a strong following of a lot of young Māori. If there is this split, where does that leave Te Pāti Māori in terms of, are they still going to vote for Te Pāti Māori, I suppose is what I'm asking?
I feel like there's a huge group of non-Māori who rallied behind Toitū Te Tiriti and that movement, and they joined the hikoi and they hung up flags and put stickers on their cars and stuff, you know, honouring the treaty. You know, they were tangata tiriti, not tangata whenua. And some of the posts that we saw from Tākuta Whereas, which complained about Indians and Asians and black and Pākehā who were campaigning to take a Māori seat off Māori, quote unquote, that probably annoyed the leadership of Toitū Te Tiriti, who had this massive group of those, you know, Indians, Asians, Pākehā and black, who were part of this Toitū Te Tiriti movement. And so they didn't like what Te Pāti Māori and Tākuta Whereas in particular were doing, and how what he was doing just drove a massive wedge between this massive group of people who were there supporting Māori rights and were supporting the treaty. So that probably plays a big role into it. Going up, in the lead up to the election, I mean, we've still got a year, and so there still is time for Te Pāti Māori to heal those wounds and to have a proper strategy and to maybe finally get some discipline and finally get some teamwork. So it looks like they're all on the same page. But at this stage, I just don't think it's going to look like that. And it's a huge headache for Labour. It's a huge headache for the Greens, because in many ways, that party's their ticket to the beehive.
I wondered about maybe a split and the formation of another party. I'm thinking, you know, there seems to be a very strong group from the far north. Does it matter too much if there's two Māori parties?
I don't think it matters too much if there's two Māori parties, but it'll be damaging for Te Pāti Māori, because it's the second time that that's happened, and it's the second time that split has been caused by the Te Taitokoro MP. Remember, it was Hone Harawira the first time that he split off and created the Mana Party. This time it might be Maria Mino who does this and takes a few of the other MPs with her. It's always a possibility, especially when you're talking about Te Pāti Māori, when you've got these really strong personalities who have got a lot of strong beliefs and have got a lot of powerful people within Māoridom behind them. I mean, Ngāpuhi is famously has so many different chefs in the kitchen and so many different people from different hapu that are arguing for different things. And so Te Pāti Māori in many ways is kind of like that, in which you've got all these really strong people within this party, and it's just really hard to manage. So, yep, some of them may go off and form their own party, leaving Rawiri and Debbie just as themselves as Te Pāti Māori. Yeah, I think anything is possible.
It's time for change is what I see, Mikey. I think, and change is good for us.
This is Maria Meno Kapakingi on the party and her own future.
I'm not going anywhere. I mean, unless our people say, no, Mino, we don't want you, we want someone else.
John Tamahere was giving nothing away when he faced questions earlier this week about today's announcement for a reset on the same day as Oreni Kaipara's maiden speech.
Why are you announcing the reset on the same day as her maiden speech? Are you not threatening to upstage, her moment?
Well, don't you think you were upstaging her moment?
Well, no, we're just asking questions. Mr. Tamahere about allegations made by Edu Kapakini.
You have a good time. Okay.
It was put to him around, what is this reset? What's the vision going to be? And he said, you'll just have to wait till Thursday to find out.
What's your understanding of this reset?
This has actually been a planned reset for a while now. So this did not come out of the allegations from Edu Kapakini. This, I think, was more potentially a reaction to that first turbulence that we saw when Takuta Ferris made his comments during the by-election. I think also the party, as I understand it, has heard or been getting feedback from their supporters that their supporters would like to see more a sense of action or forward thinking or aspiration from the party. So they're hearing from their supporters that there's been a lot of reaction to the government, the negative politicking required to respond to a lot of policies that Te Pāti Māori disagree with, for example. What their supporters want to see is them, laying out their vision, laying out what they believe and how they're going to achieve it. More and more you hear now from supporters of the left is that in order to remove this current government, there's an acknowledgement that you are going to potentially have to have a Labour Greens Te Pāti Māori coalition. So more and more there's an expectation that Te Pāti Māori get themselves in order, I suppose, to make that happen across the board, right? All the parties need to be doing some work in order to make that happen. And I think there's an expectation from Te Pāti Māori supporters that they themselves do that as well. And I guess coming back to the Toitū issue, in a way, I've seen this spoken about really positively by Te Ao Māori. So everyone that's talking about it sees it as quite a positive thing, that you have this movement be independent from any political party. So I think we'll get a reset, we'll get that vision about what they want the party to be focused on or how they want it to work for the foreseeable future. But also I think what we're going to start seeing is more policy announcements or refreshed policy announcements from the party.
The point that I made earlier about, what are they doing in Parliament? Are they in Parliament because they want to go into government, because they want to be ministers? And when you're ministers, then you have the resources and the power to actually do things, and they'll be able to do things for their people. Or are they just in Parliament to use it as a staging ground for their theatre? I mean, that's the question that a lot of people want to know. Why are they here? And if they're not here to try and get some good change, then what's the point in being in Parliament? That's why you come to Parliament, right? You come to Parliament to change things, to make the world a better place. And at the moment, it just seems as though they're infighting. They haven't really got any cohesive plan of what they're doing. So the Labour Party and the Greens are probably looking at them going, yeah, do we let them prop up our government if they're just going to be activists and agitators? And what kind of stable government would that be? And voters are asking that question right now. There will be a big group of centrist voters who are looking at the current coalition government going, is ACT and New Zealand First the tail that's wagging the dog? And if there is a change of government, would the Greens and Te Pāti Māori be the tail that wags Labour? And which is the better of those two situations? So that's probably what Labour's got to weigh up. And the longer that they leave that door open, the longer more people will just stick to what they know, which is the coalition government. And so I think Labour needs to make a decision on whether it's going to allow Te Pāti Māori to be in a government that it leads. And increasingly the Greens as well. The Greens are becoming less of a Green party and more of a liability with a lot of the stuff that's going on at the moment, in which they are an activist party. And I know that they have been for ages, but that's probably another podcast entirely, to be honest.
I know. Activism politics. That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. This episode was engineered by Jeremy Ansell and produced by Alexia Russell. Thanks to Lillian Hanley, Alice Stewart and Lloyd Burr. I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. Ka kite anō.